a little nervous at the beginning of it, but once you get out there, I mean, everybody else there is nervous too, and it's just a great opportunity to showcase your abilities and have a chance for them to take another look at you before the draft.
Now, I asked this question to Matt Skirving last time out when we were talking about playing in front of scouts, and he said that you really have to stay loose but still maintain that competitive nature. Is there a way to do that simultaneously?
Just act like they're not there.
But is it that easy?
It's not that easy, but once you get into the flow of games and stuff like that, you're more concentrated on what's going on than what's going on in the stands.
And for you, Brendan, how do you deal with knowing that there's going to be scouts at the game? You put a little bit more pressure on yourself. Does that motivate you, or do you try and stay as loose as you possibly can?
You always try to stay as loose as possible. Subconsciously, you always know you're going to know that they're there because you always know where they're sitting. You can see the radar guns popping up when the pitchers are throwing. So the biggest thing is to just stay loose and just play the game.
Now the season for both of you guys is still very young, 2-3 on the season. And you're obviously getting better as each game goes on, starting to get the bats down, starting to figure out the pitching and the style of the Coastal Plain League. But let's talk about some of your teammates for a second. I know you guys have only been here for a couple of weeks, but for each of you guys, who's one teammate that you've really been impressed with, a guy that you've been able to just look at him and say, man, that guy's got a great work ethic, just a lot of great talent on the field, works hard, really has a lot of character. Who's that guy been for you guys so far that you really have noticed and stood out from the crowd? Tanner?
I'd probably have to say the Gov, the guy that pitched last night. He just his presence on the mound, like nothing really gets to him too much, and he's always got open mind that he's going to get the next guy out, and that's great to see when you're in the field because you want to have confidence in your pitcher.
As a pitcher, was it really motivating? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. You're a third baseman, but you got a chance to play under him twice now, and the first time he struggled, the second time bounced back, had a real nice start. What's that feeling like for you watching your pitcher go out and just put everything on the line for his team?
It makes you want to play even harder because you want to help him get a win or make sure that he's doing well because he's giving all he has, so you want to give all you have too.
What about for you, Brendan? Who's been that one guy that you've really admired so far this season?
I'd have to say Skirving. I mean, he's out there every day, even on off days, taking BP. He's very smart. He knows the game. And every time he gets up to that plate, he's going to hit the ball hard. And I mean, he uses the entire field, and he's trying things that he's told me he's never really tried before. I mean, he's tried laying down bunts, and he said he hasn't done that since he was a junior in high school.
Okay.
So
now you guys have an opportunity now to be playing for one of the all-time winningest managers in both the Northwoods League and the Coastal Plain, and that's playing for Skip, Daryl Handelsman. He's got a little bit of fire in him, and what's that experience for playing for Coach Handelsman? What's that been like for you guys? Brendan, I'll start with you.
I love it. And every day he's out there, and I mean he's not afraid to argue a call in the first inning. That fire, that desire inside him, it really drives the team, gets us going.
Tanner, what's that been like for you to play under Coach Handelsman this year?
It's great. It makes you want to play a whole lot harder when you have a coach that supports everything that you're doing out there and is willing to take up for you when there's a bad call or something like that. And he's just real supportive, and he's always been helpful through BP and through the games. He's always trying to help us learn so we can become better players.
Is that an overrated thing when a manager will go out and will argue a call for you and really have your back, possibly get himself tossed out of the game on your behalf? Or is that really something that players really respect and say, this guy stood up for me, I'm going to play even harder now?
Yeah, you do get a certain level of respect when your manager will have your back through anything. I mean, it's just like almost having another teammate who'll have your back through anything. So.
Same thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. When a coach is willing to argue for you and stick up for you, you definitely want to play as hard as you can for him.
Now, one way for you guys to stay loose in the clubhouse is there's always some sort of clubhouse clown. I talked to Skirv last week, and he said he thought the guy, he wasn't sure yet, but he thought the guy that might have the best chance of being the clubhouse clown, Tom Schmitty. You guys agree, or do you think there's anybody else that might be that latest clubhouse clown?
I'd say him or Vinny. They're probably the two ones always joking around and getting everybody going and laughing in the locker room.
You agree with Vinny on that one as well?
Absolutely.
We'll have to get him on. We'll have to get both the clowns in on this show and do something goofy there. Final question before you guys. There's a big road trip coming up for you guys. You're going to be in Columbia on Wednesday night, Forest City Thursday, and defending champion Thomasville on Friday. This is your first big road trip of the season. You had some road game, home game, road game. Going on the road for 3 days, you guys nervous about that? Playing on the road, what's that whole experience like for you?
There's always a little bit of nervousness that you get before each long road trip. Where I going to another person's park, you never expect for it to be easy. So, I mean, we just got to hope to play our best ball and try to get a couple wins out of it.
Have you felt a comfort level at the Swamp so far this season with the fans behind you and just sort of getting used to everything and knowing that you have a home park to play in?
Yeah, it's nice to know that you have 2,000 people out there that are supporting you and waiting for your team to get a win at the end of the night.
Well, guys, appreciate you coming by. Brendan Rowland, Tanner Biagini, kind enough to join us here on Inside the Dog Pound at the Swamp. When we come back, another very special guest will join us, so stay tuned for that. This is Inside the Dog Pound right here on Time Warner Cable.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs?
Welcome everybody back inside the Dog Pound here at the Swamp. Ben Heisler along with you, joined by a very special guest today. Her name is Kathy Kennedy. She is the Executive Director of Elementary Education for Cumberland County. Ms. Kennedy, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today. How are you feeling today?
Great.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
So I'm glad you're here because let's talk a little bit about what you do in Cumberland County with the Executive Director position. What have you been doing so far that have really been able to reach out to some of these kids?
Well, my main position is to work with curriculum and instruction. So we have a North Carolina Standard Course of Study that it's my responsibility to help teachers and my team, not mine individually, but my team's responsibility to help our teachers implement that curriculum within our elementary schools. And we have 52 of those elementary schools here in Cumberland County.
So you're responsible of keeping track of all those different curriculums, making sure that all the students are learning the right way and from the right programs. Does that ever get overwhelming for you, trying
Very
to keep
much
up with 52
so, but I have a
schools?
wonderful team, and we have great teachers in Cumberland County with wonderful support at the school level with their principals and other people, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Now, one thing that's been nice is to finally have this new SwampDogs relationship with you and with the Cumberland County schools. And can you talk a little about what the SwampDogs have been able to do as far as just getting involved with education and with Cumberland County schools?
Well, even in the past, even before this year, with the math problems that we've done, the players go into our schools and really they're able to motivate our young children, and even our fifth graders love to see the SwampDog players, because they obviously, many of them want to be just like them and grow up and go to play softball or play baseball, whether they're girls or boys. So they go into our schools, have been into our schools, and they read to the children. They come to awards day ceremonies and actually present certificates to the children, just depending on, it might be straight A's or those kinds of things. But they're very good about anytime we've invited them to be part of our school system.
So they're not just being role models on an educational level, but just in society as well.
Absolutely.
That's a wonderful thing to see, and I'm glad that the SwampDogs have been able to continue that relationship and certainly build it forward. But Monday, June 8th is going to be an exciting night, as well as hospitality night at the ballpark. It's also math club night. When did the SwampDogs go to you and say, we'd like to try and promote this idea?
I think Mark and Daryl came back in November, I want to say. Our communications assistant superintendent actually made the contact with me and said, the SwampDogs really want to do a reading program with Cumberland County Schools. And I said, we do a lot of reading programs, but we really need some assistance with math incentives. So Mark and I met and we talked about doing the math incentive program and what we would need to do and what he would need to do, and that just began that partnership, and we've worked together since November on this project.
Now, I remember being a young student, and excelling at math, and obviously it got more difficult as it went on, but I always remember when you're at a young age, if you can find a way to make math enjoyable and relatable, it's always a wonderful subject. And I think the SwampDogs have been able to work with you extensively to be able to make this new booklet that you actually have right here that sort of says a way and shows a way to make math fun and excitable. How have they been able to do that?
Well, we actually, our curriculum team, a group of teachers and our math curriculum specialist, Tiffany DiCarlo, created these math problems. And of course, the SwampDogs managers had to tell us who the players were going to be this year. So that was kind of something we had to wait on, because we didn't really know who the players were going to be. And so once we figured that out, we were able to incorporate their names into math problems. Baseball's America's favorite pastime.
Sure.
And so for children to be able to solve problems that are directly related to going to a baseball game or to players that they actually see in their local newspaper. They can read articles about them. It really brings that connection home to them, and it is extremely motivating for them.
So not only, as you said before, there's going to be there's a lot of summer reading programs, but it's an opportunity now for students to increase their math skills. And certainly I can remember growing up, the summer would